Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member's time has expired. Sewer Williams-Seal.
Mr. Speaker, I recall some years ago an elderly retired fireman related stories during his time in the rural area. It was a time when the service of the fire brigade was to put out fires. And he tells a story of this house that had burnt down and the wind sort of swept up the flames and all the surrounding trees burnt and the embers started falling down. And unfortunately, some of the firemen did not have the appropriate safety footwear, and so they couldn't get close enough. On another occasion, he relates a story how they went there and they didn't have sufficient water. Again, this was the rural area. And on another occasion, in order to prevent the fire from spreading to the other buildings, they hosed down the two sides and didn't put out the fire. It was sort of funny, sir, in many ways, but he related that story to convey to me how different things were in his time as opposed to today. He also related how important it was to sufficiently resource the department that we call our fire services. Tonight I had the opportunity, sir, to call Dennis Widsinger, the duty station manager at the Māngere Fire Services, and asked him whether they were aware of this bill coming through, and his answer was yes. What his feeling was about this. Now, Mr. Widsinger had served in the rural area as well as in the urban areas, and he believes, in his words, this is a big step forward for the fire services and for New Zealand. And he believes that by bringing together the organisation under one act rather than the Rural and the Fire Act, that he believes that hopefully that there will be sufficient funding for the organisation, recognising the services of the fire service, as well as recognising the volunteers, but in addition to have ongoing training. Which then brings me to the bill, sir, that 4 parts of the bill. The first part establishes the Fire and Emergency New Zealand. The second part refers to its operational functions, duties and powers. The third part, sir, I would like talks about levy. And I hope that the general public do consider that particular part seriously, because while I acknowledge the Minister has done significant work in ensuring that there is widespread consultation, that people have an input in the implementation of this bill, he also has released alongside this work the budget for this work of $303 million in 4 years. Significant proportion of that is capital for the establishment of this headquarters. And then the concern I have is that we can expect increases in levies. And I don't know, sir, given the fact that we're now our fire services are no longer focused on putting out fires. We basically use our fire services just about anything, because oftentimes people tell me it's easier to call 111 and ask for the fire service than to call 111 and ask the police to turn up. And so there's the big question whether our Fire and Emergency New Zealand will be sufficiently funded in order for them to carry out their task and perform their duties, and the burden that will add, and whether it would be add fairly, and whether the increased levies will go directly into the Fire Emergency New Zealand, or as we've seen with this government, they often siphon off money to do other things. So I would ask that the Minister continue in his good work on this, extend the consultation period to the fullest, and I recommend the chairperson and the committee, it's an appropriate committee, the chairperson is professional, the chairperson is far better than some of the other chairpersons in ensuring that we have widespread input to some of the concerns. My colleague, Mr. Widsinger, the station manager, the fire service for Māngere, is wanting to ensure that all their members have that opportunity to make statements at the public consultation process. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Kamwal Singh